Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us here at the 23rd edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit, the annual flagship event of TERI. Before we commence the session, a brief safety announcement during the event here at the Jacaranda Hall 1, India Habitat Center. TERI is a health, safety and environment certified organization. In case of any untoward incident like fire, you may evacuate from the gate on your right, walk down the stairs to the main hall, and exit from the main gate of the building. Varun, will they sit here? Will they sit here or should I call them? As we proceed further, it is my great privilege to host you all here on behalf of the WSDS and the entire TERI family. My name is Abha Balal, and it is my absolute pleasure to extend a hearty welcome to you all to this track titled Lessons and Experiences from NbS Carbon Project Development in India. To begin with, I would like to introduce you all with a very distinguished line of panelists for this session. The esteemed chair and moderator of this session is Dr. J.V. Sharma, Senior Director, Land Resources Division, TERI, with 45 years of expertise in sustainable development, biodiversity conservation, and climate change mitigation is unparalleled. His impactful work at TERI includes leading projects on climate financing, forest ecosystem evaluation, and governance reforms. As a key negotiator for the Government of India at the United Nations, Dr. Sharma's global contributions to forest policy are remarkable. We also have with us today Mr. Deepak Gupta, Executive Vice President, Carbon Business, Renew Private Limited. Mr. Gupta brings with him extensive experience of over 20 years in the clean energy and environment sector. He has worked in multiple capacities, including in technical aspects, business development, and corporate decision-making related to climate investments. Currently, he is spearheading green credit business in Renew and working on multiple projects, building and scaling a community-based and nature-based solutions and technology-based solutions, and engaging with multiple government policymakers and project development capabilities. We also have with us Dr. Lokesh Chandra Dubey, Senior Standards Manager, Energy, Land Use and Forests, Gold Standard. Dr. Dubey is Senior Manager for Standards Development and Innovation at the Gold Standard Foundation, one of the leading standards in the carbon market and sustainable development space. At Gold Standard, he looks after the development of standards and methodologies in energy as well as the land use and forestry sectors. He also serves as a member on a working group of the ICVCM and on the expert committee on VCM constituted by International Financial Services Center Authority, Government of India. We also have with us Mr. Santosh K. Singh, Partner and Managing Director, Climate and Agri Solutions, Intellicap. Mr. Singh leads the energy and climate change practice at Intellicap. He supports clean energy entrepreneurs with knowledge, network, and capital solutions. He has more than 15 years of experience in base of the pyramid market development with a focus on energy access, climate resilient agriculture, and climate finance. We also have with us Mr. Rohit Garg, Region Director for Climate Projects in South Asia and Middle East, South Pole. Mr. Garg is Regional Director in South Pole and looking after South Asia, Middle East, and Central Asia region. He has over 11 years of experience in developing climate change projects in LDCs in developing countries, with a particular focus on nature-based solution, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and community-based projects. He also worked on multiple new methodology development topics like plastics recycling, biochar, and carbon capture and storage. Our next panelist is Mr. Amit Anand, Chief Executive Officer, Carbon Check India Private Limited. Mr. Anand has over 20 years of experience in the environmental services industry. He is an expert on GHG offsetting and mitigation projects, evaluation, and assessments. He has been involved in third-party validation and verification of various projects related to sustainable development, renewable energy, decentralized energy, demand-side energy efficiency, waste management, forestry, agriculture, and plastic waste reduction. We have with us Mr. Sachin Jain, Secretary, Network for Certification and Conservation of Forests. Mr. Jain is the Secretary, Network for NCCF. He has experience in third-party monitoring and evaluation, environmental certification programs, sustainability, climate change, monitoring and evaluation. He's also behind the development and idea of carbon registry in India to provide a listing, transfer, and tracking platform for relevant stakeholders globally. I would also like to mention that we had another panelist for the session today, Mr. Ajay Kumar Sharma, Joint Director, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies. Due to some personal reasons, he would not be able to join us today. He apologizes for his absence. On behalf of TERI and WS team, I would like to express my gratitude for all esteemed panelists for gracing us with their presence. Can we please have a brief round of applause for them? I would now like to request Mr. Varun Grover, Associate Fellow, Land Resources Division, to set the context and theme for today's session. Mr. Grover, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Abba. Good evening, everyone. So I will just take some amount of time and I'll set the context and then over to the panel. So carbon markets evolved since prior to even the Paris Agreement. It started with the CDM, but currently let's narrow down to Paris Agreement. So Paris Agreement wants us to global climate to 2 degrees. To limit the global climate change so that we stop the climate change activities. So for this mitigation and adaptation, we need financial flows. Carbon markets is one of the areas through which financing can take place. Under Paris Agreement, there are various options for climate finance. Article 6 is one of them. There are Article 6.8, 6.2, and all these encourage public participation through public-private mode, governments, and all grants. So there are multiple channels through which the finance can flow. So why do we need a price on carbon? So a price on carbon helps the polluter pays principle. So those who pollute and the ones who are not responsible for that pollution. So there are multiple options for putting a price on carbon. So there is emission trading. There's carbon pricing, there's carbon tax, there are offsetting options, there are internal carbon pricing which the organization sets on themselves, and then there's result-based climate financing. Offsetting is one of the major thing that is in the talk these days because everyone wants to offset the emissions. So this started again in the with the CDM, and now we are the voluntary markets. So the market has evolved. Some things have been picked up from the CDM market, and now we are still evolving. So it is an ongoing process. So when we move on to the idea of carbon finance, so there are 2 activities: either we avoid the emissions, or we directly remove the emissions. These are the basics of carbon market. Either we operate in the voluntary market or the compliance market. These things remain same. And to get the idea of carbon finance, there is always a need to prove that our efforts are additional and not usual practices, which we call as business as usual scenario. So the additional effort is the thing that for which the carbon market gives you the carbon price or gives you that additional financial incentive. So this is known to everyone that there are 2 kinds of markets, the compliance and voluntary. The compliance market is still not functional because CDM expired and the current market is still identifying and going through the rules. So we only have the voluntary space to work on with, because at India level also there is no domestic market as such except for the PAT scheme that's available. So more or less the space that's occupied or that's in discussion is the voluntary market only in context of India. So, and the other voluntary platforms which are available, which are active, on which the trading is done, on which the projects are being developed. These are the common names I guess all of us would be knowing, be it Vera, Gold Standard, and we have representatives from scheme owners here as well. So I'll just skip this slide again. So currently we are focused in today's session on specifically nature-based solutions, and land-based projects can be one major component of that, because these are all carbon dioxide removal activity, and until we are able to scale up to the tech-based solutions for carbon dioxide removal, the nature-based solutions are economical, cheaper, and they have something that it is accessible and people are doing it. So it is a practice that's being following on, because the tech-based solutions are not easy to scale up and they are very cost extensive. The small countries may not be able to reach economies of scale using those tech-based solutions. So moving on, these are the various types of land-based projects which can be done or which are prevalent, be it ARR, RED, improved forest management projects, wetland, agroforestry, agriculture projects. So I'm not going into the detail of all these. And when we develop projects, we have multiple stakeholders or multiple players who are involved in developing these carbon projects. Irrespective of the market we go, there is a project proponent, there would be a project developer, there would be someone investing, or then there would be beneficiaries who would be getting out of the project beneficiary, the financial benefit who would be getting. There would be someone who would be evaluating these activities, so an independent evaluator, and often there are technical experts, so who are able to bridge between people like, say, project developers and project proponents. So there are different stakeholders involved, and we have all different stakeholders to get their perspective, the issues, challenges that they are facing or the market is facing. So we'll hear directly from them. So I'll just, these things would be coming in the things they would be saying in the context and the discussion that would be going on today: additionality, accounting, monitoring, permanence, co-benefits. So these are the all characteristics of a carbon project that around which the standards are developed. There are complexities, the evidences are to be provided, these things need to be clarified. And then there are again, continuing with the characteristics, there are safeguards, stakeholder consultations, the impact of the project, the public consultation, specific safeguards. So this is just that the voluntary market is in demand. There are sizable transactions that are happening. So the data also proves these things, that yes, there is something that is there in the market which can be accessed by people. It would require modifications and change. That's a separate discussion altogether. But yes, there is something that is active in the market, and its share needs to be increased through all our effort. So this is something again that's being in the highlight of discussions, that the current state of the markets. So markets are aligning themselves with something known as core carbon principles. There are integrity and integrity questions being raised on the voluntary carbon markets. The methodologies are being revised. So people are the schemes are moving to more digitized options, so that their tools are being digitized. There's more emphasis on SDGs and co-benefits. So, and obviously we are all waiting on the status of the UNFCCC Article 6.4 rules. So with this, I would like to end my presentation, and now the panel can take over. So the moderator.
Thank you, Varun. First of all, I like to highlight this why we have designed and chosen the topic lesson and experience from NbS carbon project development in India, because when we are implementing the project, we are finding difficulties, ground realities are different from what is written in the papers, what is so if we see that more than 150 projects are in India under the NbS in different platforms, Vera, Gold Standard, Plan Vivo, etc. And more than 300 million people are living in and around forest, and they are deriving full or partial livelihood from the forest. They have dependence on the forest, and also on the basis of the Forest Survey of India, the NDC target, India is overachieving by 2030, 1.25. So many countries are saying that how India can sell the carbon credits when they have to achieve their NDCs. So that baseline is 2005, some people might not be knowing, but I'm mentioning with the authentic source, an authentic document with me. The government of India has decided 2005 as a baseline for achieving NDCs 2.5 to 3 billion tons. And additionality 2 times what have been used, but India is going for only one additional, and so whatever achieved, and till 2019, and again on the basis of the Forest Survey of India, 1.97 billion ton has already been achieved from the baseline of 2005. So, in nutshell, I like to highlight that we have till 2030 only more than 1.25 billion tons credits to be sold, but enough scope for the voluntary carbon market as far as forestry and tree planting, ARR and the RED projects only. I'm not including the credits to be generated under the agriculture and wetlands and other sectors. So those are different. From TERI, we are implementing 28 projects at present and around 18 projects of afforestation and reforestation. And today we'll be more focusing on, because in the morning there was a session on the REDD plus, so that at this point of time, I will be more focusing on that, what kind of the difficulties we are facing. And first, we have to see that, as Varun had mentioned, that without investor presence, projects in India for agroforestry cannot be generated, because economic viability is a key issue. For 5 farmers or 10 farmers or 100 farmers, even they form a federation, so that even then a project will not be economically viable. So that for economical viability, minimum 50 lakh to 1 crore seedlings are needed, and 1 crore, 50 lakh to 1 crore seedling maybe by 5,000 to 10,000 farmers. So mobilizing 5,000 to 10,000 farmers, so they are not going to invest anything. Government is not going to invest for the project development. So some investors has to be there. That is an important stakeholder in the in India, and particularly for the carbon finance projects. The investors are there, and another problem is the issue is that methodologies are generic, and interpretation of the terminology and definitions are complex and not easily understandable. And many a times standards also do not provide the right kind of the clarity on that. We keep on asking the standards, and we got the very vague reply. And farmers and forest dependent communities are not disturbing the native ecosystem in India particularly, whether it is agroforestry or the natural forest or the reserve forest or etc. Rather, they are contributing towards improvement of the ecosystem. By agroforestry, they are improving the ecosystem. Kind of the evidence sought are beyond understanding of the forest dependent communities and the farmers, so that whatever the evidence needed by the these standards may be understandable to the project developer. Many times it is not understandable by the project developer even. Little time is provided during the transition period of the guidelines change or methodology change or the template change. Very little time has been provided, maybe 1 month or 15 days or 1.5 months, not more than this time, because we are finding difficulties. Once projects are listed, so standard must provide the permit the old methodology, use of old methodology, use of old template. So on daily basis, the templates must not be changed. Even for third-party verification and the validation, I also address the comments, not in pieces, piecemeal, maybe in one go, so that it will save much more time. When you go to the field for the project generation, farmer asks very first question. You go to the government asks very first question, when we are getting the financial benefits. So we are giving on the basis of our experience 24. Earlier we were giving 24 months time. Now we are saying 36 months time, seeing all that kind of issues on the ground realities. So 36 months time or the 4 years time is too much to be waited by the farmer and anybody for getting the finance. So third party validators and verifiers standards have to look into the country specific. These kind of the issues are on ground. Only then we will be able to pass on the benefit of the financial benefits to the farmers and the forest dependent community, poorest of the poor. And then we, on one side we claim that we are also contributing towards the achievement of the SDGs. Once we are talking about the SDGs and mitigating climate change through carbon finance and role of FDCs in the conservation of forests and role of farmers in the mitigating sequestration of the carbon dioxide through tree plantations, so that standards and we all elite have to take care of these issues, so that whatever we have felt, maybe eminent panelists are here and they may raise more points more than that, and they can apprise all of us. And some of the point, whatever I have explained, might be on the basis of my our limited experience of 28 projects. Very fair and validated, they have the large and they can also explain how we can overcome these issues. So with these words, I will request, because Renew and Power is also one of the investor, and they are investing money in generation of project. TERI is also working with them in the RED as well as ARR projects. So I will request Deepak to highlight what kind of, Deepak is also have experience of the transaction of future transaction of the credits and regarding future market of the credits and future buyers and buyers of the credits, so that I request Deepak to highlight that particular aspect, what kind of the market at present and what kind of the demand of the ARR and the RED and also the mangrove projects is there. So I am handing over to the Deepak. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, and good afternoon to everyone. Dr. Sharma has highlighted and alluded to some of the challenges that in a way I would say technical organizations face when they get into registering projects, validating projects, verifying projects, which is where, but those are also genuine investor concerns because everything that happens on the technical side delays money coming back to the investor by that much longer, and also enhances investors' concerns for that much longer. But having said that, that's a smaller portion of the overall set of concerns when you look at it from an investor standpoint. But before I get to concerns, what is important to highlight, okay, what is it that we are talking about as a potential for this sector? So a very, very preliminary analysis that my team conducted, and it is still back of the envelope. I will not say these numbers have been validated or have undergone a lot of review. But it seems to us that if we are able to bring just agriculture sector into an active carbon ecosystem, there could be a potential of India earning anywhere close to $5 to $10 billion every year. And that is, as I said, back of the envelope, and I would say slightly conservative estimate. Now that is the kind of money, if you think about it, renewable energy sector, which is one sector where Renew has been there for last 10, 11 years, and the sector has been there for very long. $10 billion or so is the renewable energy sector's annual revenue today. And I'm saying carbon agriculture sector alone can actually reach that potential. Now, is it easy, or am I saying that it will reach that potential tomorrow? No, I'm not saying that. But maybe as stakeholders, we all need to work together for this sector to reach that potential. Good news is, Government of India has also started to realize the potential for the sector. And few things have happened on that side. One, obviously, from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, there is a list of 13 sectors that they're allowing under Article 6.2. Unfortunately and incidentally, nature-based solutions is not categorically written there, but again that is something one challenge. But the good news is, just 2 days back, Agriculture Ministry came up with what they are calling a voluntary carbon framework for agriculture sector. So at least there is now focus on the sector and on the potential for carbon financing or carbon to yield additional source of revenue for our very, very needy agriculture sector and at one go, but overall I would say nature-based solution sector, as Dr. Sharma alluded to. So now how do we take it from here to, I don't know, maybe $1 billion to start with, if not $5 billion or $10 billion per annum kind of revenue, And that's a huge number if we compare it to annual income of our sort of farmers, which is anywhere between 30,000 to 50,000 rupees per hectare, is what most of the data suggest. And if anything supported through carbon financing can add to that income at any level, I believe everyone will be appreciative of that without any questioning. And then there comes all the questions that I'm now going to get into. Number one, how can we get the ecosystem straight thinking in terms of that, yes, this is a model, yes, it is possible. How do we bring farmers on board? How do we bring other stakeholders, like Dr. Sharma alluded to, communities that depend on forests and farming, FPOs? Because again, an investor like Renew, or for that purpose any investor, would not have the ability or bandwidth to deal with each and every individual farmer. Not even people who procure farming products do that. So then FPOs or equivalent structures come in between, and how do we leverage again those structures? How do we train them to understand the carbon language, if I may use that word? Because they don't understand carbon language, and nobody's fault. The sector is so very new. Actually, probably none of us except Dr. Sharma understood carbon language till about 5-6 years back. So we cannot blame our farmer friends or FPO friends that they don't understand carbon language. But yes, the need is to make them understand carbon language, so that when our validators, verifiers, even buyers actually, and again, this is something very good, while it takes time, that buyers of credits nowadays want to visit the actual sites, because there are certain concerns that have been raised globally on quality of projects, quality of carbon offsets. So it's a good thing they want to visit sites, but again, they want to also hear carbon language from the people who are involved in carbon sector. So it is very, very important, number one, to make them understand that. Second thing is, can there be effective CPP models, community public private partnership models? Because again, here community is the key. I think India has been doing great on PPP, and we have seen progress and success in multiple sectors because of PPP, be it airport or port or roads. But now it seems for agriculture sector particularly, or for actually broader NbS, even RED Plus or agroforestry or afforestation, what is required is a community public-private participation model. And the need is to actually have or actually evolve such models if required ab initio, and maybe give it equal emphasis that government provided to PPP about 2 decades back, come up with maybe centralized documents or whatever it needs to enable that ecosystem, so that investors feel comfortable in investing large amount of money in that ecosystem. There is clarity on rules and regulations of that ecosystem as to what is it that the investor will get out of it. Again, good thing is, particularly carbon investors seek nothing out of it which is of value to farmers, if you think about it. Carbon investors do not seek right to land, carbon investors do not seek right to product, carbon investors do not seek right to tree. Carbon investors only seek typically right to carbon credits. And they provide all the services to farmers free or at a highly subsidized rate. So to that extent, actually, they do not seek anything which is of existing value to carbon. But in fact, if frameworks are right, they can create additional value for farmers or communities out of carbon financing, beyond the tree, beyond the fruit, or beyond the product, and beyond the land which farmer already owns. So again, how do we enable that ecosystem in the right stride, rather than there is a saying that, or is it something like that, we might end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and we say, okay, this is very new sector, we don't need any such framing of ecosystem, and let's just do 5 projects, 10 projects, and then learn. Yes, obviously we can learn and we can continue to learn, but we as an investor firmly believe that this ecosystem requires a little bit more detailing, and government has to be a key active stakeholder in this entire process. Third broad point, which then alludes to how do we bring other stakeholders who are involved in this entire carbon cycle, which Dr. Sharma alluded to, which includes VVBs, which includes registries, and also, by the way, it includes buyers. How do we bring all of them on the board? Because there has been a lot of discussion, and in some sense, at least in some areas, concerns about quality of credits. But fact remains, we need to really segregate genuine concerns from hearsay concerns. There can be, and there are certain genuine concerns in terms of very strong words being used, greenwashing or whatever. So there could be some of those genuine concerns. But there is a need to really identify and segregate what are the genuine concerns and what are the things that can be easily handled through right kind of monitoring, through right kind of technology interventions, through right kind of methodology design, through right kind of farmer or community engagement. And unless we segregate these two things, again, there is a huge risk that even before we get started onto investments, even before we make it sort of look like a business model or an investor model, it might just sort of do not get a life of its own and actually die early. So I think for the people on the panel, also to Dr. Sharma and TERI and WSDS, my request is that maybe as an outcome of this panel and after hearing from all the panelists, if there is a possibility to create some sort of a position paper on this and aggregating all these things, the good things and some things to be really, taken care of for making this sector big enough so that when we are here at next WSDS, we can actually talk about whether framework is going right or is there a need to tweak the framework rather than sort of talking in absence of a framework and only talking about only lessons and experiences for Dr. Sharma, you said 28 projects, right? 28. Maybe how do we look at converting those into 200 projects at least by next 1 year? And last thing, which I'm going to take 1 more minute, sir, is how do we attract real investment? And when I say real investment, can we through carbon financing enable farmers actually getting support upfront to do what they want to do, to grow more trees, to do better agriculture practices, and whatever they need to do and which reduces carbon. And at least I can tell you that we are undertaking some such projects in which we are investing early money into the fields, providing saplings to farmers, and we will only recover our sort of money through carbon finance as it comes through. It has its own challenges. I'm not saying it's easy, but at the same time, that's how we want to look at this business, just like we invest in our renewable energy projects, wherein we invest money in buying modules and wind turbines and put them on the ground, and then when power is generated, we recover our money. Same way we look at nature-based solution as a business model, and that's the way I believe the sector can really scale up. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. And you have exactly highlighted the agriculture sector to be tapped. And we have tried to generate and the economic viability, for economic viability, a minimum 1 lakh hectare to be needed. And we tried in Balauda Bazar district of Chhattisgarh, and we could not get much of the support. We cannot go without support of the district magistrate in this case. So that possibility of the projects are there, but the ground reality is that for economic viability, it is you have to go to the government system because farmers, they have faith in the government rather than in a private entity. So that is very important. And now we are also new institution has come up, the Farmers Producers Organization. This is registered under the Company Act. So they have the government support from indirectly from the Agriculture Department, and it has opened the sector particularly to generate the projects. So with these words, I request Lokesh, who is representing the gold standard, and whatever we have requested, we have highlighted and flagged the issues on the basis of our experience. Some may be right, some may not be, so that we like to listen the Dr. Lokesh Dubey from Gold Standard regarding how to resolve these concerns at the standard level.
Thank you.
Yogesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The observations that was raised by Dr. Sharma during his introductory remarks are, of course, there is some degree of of reality into it, that there are standards in the market who have abruptly changed rules and requirements, and because of that, the implementers have to face problems. So a good standard would always like to give flexibility and simplification for implementation on ground, and would also allow sufficient transition time when they change their requirements or templates and so on. So gold standard works on the philosophy of maintaining the balance between the robustness and implementability. We have to see how much cost it is going to incur to the project developer on ground, but we also have to see what is demand in the market for integrity. So, but we also say that in garb of enhancing the integrity or maintaining the integrity, we cannot let the market collapse. So going with those kind of guiding principles, we intend to modify and continuously improve our requirements, principles, methodologies, and so on, not bringing abrupt change. For example, I would mention that the forestry-related rules, which were part of our land use and forestry activity requirements, are in process of a split between agriculture activity requirements and forestry activity requirements. Agriculture activity requirements were out for public consultation in December, and forestry one would be out for public consultation very soon, maybe in March or April. And after that, around June, we will also bring the blue carbon activity requirements for public consultation. The role of these new activity requirements are more towards enhancing the scope and clarity of use, rather than bringing more kind of complication and difficulty for the implementers. So that is one thing that we are especially focusing on. Important thing that I would also like to note, that since now the landscape of carbon market has changed, it is not the same as it was 5 years ago. So we have newer means of implementation at our disposal now. We have digital tools available, we have more advanced technologies which may be applied, we have more access to the data on field using the remote sensing information as well as the ground data. So we need to take help of all possible means as long as the MRV cost doesn't go beyond a certain level, and also we have to see the marginal cost of abatement when it remains above the carbon credit price, it works. Otherwise, it would not work and market would eventually collapse. So that has to be taken into consideration while we are kind of designing any intervention from a top level and trying to percolate at the finer level. The drive for integrity, which is now coming from various pressure groups in the market who are active, and also the researchers who are bringing in new aspects and nuances in the carbon markets. We, as a standard, gold standard, welcomes all kind of opinions and views on the drive to improve integrity. But we also recognize that there is always a transition time that is needed. We have been fortunate as a standard that certain things which are now being talked for implementation by other standards were part of our standard from the day one. For example, the SDG contribution was mandatory part of gold standard for the global goals. Safeguards were kind of mandatory requirement of the gold standard and so on. So we are expanding the scope. We are also seeing if these changes are implementable on ground in a given period of time, and trying to improve the robustness by bringing in new methodologies and clarity over concepts such as materiality and uncertainty. As of now, the addressal of uncertainty is something which is, I would say, not very transparent in the standard requirements across different standards. So it is time that we now act and bring more confidence into our estimations by reducing the uncertainty, of course, without going into too much of complications for the project developers. For that, there are approaches available, for example, indicating a default uncertainty percentage that may be used for adjustment, and we have tried doing that in our recent methodology for rice that was out last year, that we gave a default percentage of uncertainty reduction for projects which are using default values. So all these improvements will happen, are bound to happen, because market is changing. As I said in the beginning, we would say that this market will eventually transform itself into a supermarket kind of structure where you go and you have different kind of products in a supermarket and you pick and choose according to your own taste. In the similar way, the carbon market landscape will change. Adaptation is going to play a major role. Mitigation and adaptation, which look very different and disjointed currently, would find some linkages and synergies in times to come, and we will see that the mitigation co-benefits of adaptation activities are also being counted for. And mind that carbon is only one part of NbS story. Other benefits may also be monetized using impact certification other than offset certification. So offset certification is not always the only way to generate kind of sustainable finance for NbS projects. It is also impact certification, and that certification is also in demand that we need to explore and understand and venture into. So these were a couple of points that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Lokesh. And you have highlighted the balance has to be maintained regarding particularly the integrity of the credits to be issued by the standard. So that is no doubt about it, that because price is also attached to that, and that is very key and important. Here, project developer or the project proponent require the implementable solution at ground, what kind of the solution. So for that, gradual interaction between amongst project developer standard and the VVV is very key and important. So that just recently Vera has organized webinar. Gold Standard also might be organizing, so that you identified the stakeholder or send linkage for the online meetings or discussions to the stakeholders, so that these problems could be resolved during that process. So with these words, I request Mr. Santosh Kumar Singh. So I am not posing any question to Santosh particularly, and what the issues I have flagged, kindly throw some light on that. Thank you.
Good
Mr.
that
Santosh.
you did not ask question. I don't have many answers, but thank you for inviting us. Just to give you a quick summary, what we do. Intellicap has been working in the carbon or climate space. Largely, we have been working on setting up ETSH, emission trading systems. We are working on country frameworks for carbon, so we were involved in the compliance market setup. We have done a few projects on the ground to test the different business models and showcase what a good quality project could be. And we do have a certain pledge in investing into the carbon project itself. I think there are several keywords that come up in the carbon market, and if you just combine all what discussed by Deepak or Lokesh, integrity or the challenges or the solutions, they are spread over multiple dimensions. So the first is that if you look at the very top level is the country and regulatory framework that controls the carbon market, how they play with the NDCs, how they play with the compliance market. Dr. Sharma started with saying that, okay, what comes under the NDC, whether it will be part of that, etc. Now that's a big story. If that gets, either way, then you have a massive impact on the carbon market. The second comes under the scientific basis or methodologies. If a scientific basis had been questioned, a methodology had been questioned, then you have all the questions, like Vera and Gold Standard coming up with revised methodologies that creates challenges. Third comes on the impact and additionality. additional that you are creating? Is it impact that you are creating, or you are just kind of no real impact on the carbon emission avoidance or removal? So that's the third dimensions where the question comes. The fourth comes on the operational and procedural. Are you measuring it right? Are you monitoring it right? Are you quantifying it right? Are you selling it right? So those are the questions. Next comes on the financials. Is it priced accordingly? Why somebody should pay 1 ton carbon, $2 for renewable energy and $20 for NbS if the core commodity is carbon only? Is it not confusing? Is it like somebody who is not there would say, why I'm paying for, if I have to meet all my net zero commitments, I would buy the cheapest carbon available and just write it off. Why to pay premium? And the last case, huge cases. You heard about greenwashing. Greenwashing has nothing to do with the carbon project, but the huge cases, how you use this to showcase your carbon or climate commitment. Now, these are the things that we have been discussing. So I would focus on the solutions and a few things that we can do. And I think if I take an analogy from other sector, 2008 and 9, I was having a meeting with one of the early adopter or early producer of the electric rickshaws. And there were questions a ton. Integrity of the, not this wala integrity, the other integrity, the chassis integrity, the battery, the mileage, etc. And nobody touched that thing. The same company got acquired by Tata 4 years later. And today we have the electric mobility as a very, very different kind of a space that we could have never fathomed at that point of time. Similarly, if I look at the solar space that my colleague Deepak knows better than anyone else. 15 years back, solar was like giving as subsidized things at the block level. You take it and it was a favor that if you take it. Now we have the biggest companies walking into that. The point I'm trying to make that when a sector evolves, there are challenges galore. But once the big money comes in, the more people get involved, the challenges gets addressed. It will not get addressed when there are 2 or 3 players doing and a few $1 million are the question. If your compliance market is $1 trillion question, compliance market is roughly on $4 to $5 trillion, not I'm talking about billions here, trillions. And the stakes are very high. The country's whole economy is susceptible to any change in the compliance market, that what would the effectiveness. So the first is that how to get more transparency and more big player to come into that so that the questions get raised, and once they will get raised, they will get answered. If they don't get raised, if you don't ask that there should be a clarity between the interplay of compliance and voluntary carbon market about the sectors that would come under the different frameworks, it will never get answered. And we will operate under this illusion that, okay, I don't know what will happen, so the prices will move, right? So that's the first thing, and Deepak, I like the idea that coming up with a thought paper saying that, hey, can we work on these step by step? The second, a point I would like to highlight is that once these have been done, the scientific basis is a big question. And some of the project developers are being penalized for the scientific basis of the methodologies. They have no role to play. You put the methodology that, okay, this is how you calculate the carbon. Now, tomorrow somebody question the methodology, the registries, and I'm not talking about Goldest in particular, I'm talking about everyone in this room, in this sector. When the methodology get questioned, the guys who develop the methodology have nothing to lose. It is the person who invested and the project project developer who did, they are at a loss, right? So we need to put the right balance between the skin in the game and the responsibility and the reward. You cannot have only upside. You should also have to take the side. So where is the mechanism? And we need to put that what happens that a project integrity get questioned on a particular parameters, who is to take loss, right? Because somebody need to get that surety. The third challenge we see in this market is that the unification of this very diverse risk that we are talking about. And NbS is a small fraction of the entire carbon market. Within NbS, there are several projects. So agroforestry is very different than the rice cultivations versus mangrove restoration. Very, very different. Why we are not able to do that? Primarily because ask any agriculture financier. They just don't like financing agriculture because of the uncertainty into that system. The system risk, all these things. You are saying that within that complicated financing system, put a layer of another complexity, carbon and saying finance. So we need to kind of see that which kind of sectors would emerge more strong and put that into consideration, which sectors would remain susceptible to this kind of risk more and be aware that those risks would play into the pricing part. Financing is a big challenge, and financing is a big challenge primarily from the point of view of the risk that we are talking about. And Deepak has been trying with different models, different kind of investment, and all the questions come to us when we talk about this investment. We are trying to learn. There is no way that we can do that. But learning need to be expedited, and learning need to be institutionalized. That okay, this is what it should be. It should not be that learning remains individual, and then we talk about. Just to give you a couple of solutions, sir, I'll NABARD. So IntelliCap works with some of the stakeholders. The 2-3 stakeholders that we are working on. One big thing that we are pushing is public infrastructure for carbon. I'll give you an example of that. The baseline for rice cultivation has to be calculated every time you develop an AWD project. And it will be questioned every time because a project developer does it. Can we have a public infrastructure saying that rice cultivation data is available for the region wide? That could be not baseline. Do the intervention on that. Reduces the cost of the project development and gives the more integrity and validity to the calculations, right? So that's the one way of looking at that. What public infrastructure can be created that reduces the integrity question and the cost of the carbon transaction. So let's focus on that. It's a slightly difficult topic to discuss because the public infrastructure required for different kind of project is different and for different kind of intervention. The second thing is that in the financing space, it's not very clear that how carbon finance flows. We know the finance flows to the project, but how the carbon finance flows? Is it going to the investors as a risk-reward ratio with some community participation, or is it going in some other ways as to subsidize these things? We don't know. Some kind of guidance would be clear because we have this concern that the carbon is owned by the farmers in this case or the landowners. And if we don't have the right consent, because it's a lot of information asymmetry that exists here, then the entire question would be say that you don't own the carbon, how can you sell it? There's also the question when the country owns the carbon. If the government say that all the carbon that is produced in that, it is ours, what will happen? So we are working with NABARD to see that if there can be pilot project, NABARD can develop, NABARD finances lots of farmers. So can NABARD start recognizing the carbon revenue as one of the revenue from the project, and that would sweeten the kind of IRR, and that could give this example. Right now, the bankers don't understand how to factor in carbon revenue from the project. They have no methodology, no framework, and hence they don't factor in. And a result of that, Deepak has to finance or somebody has to finance bank is not coming because say I don't understand this game, right? Last point, I think I would like to say that the wider consultation of sector is needed, and these consultations often happen in a very myopic view. You know, sometimes we invite the consultation on a one dimensions and miss the larger picture. If you are having consultation on the compliance market, it is not about only compliance market, it is about the country strategy, that how the country is looking at the carbon market. Is it a way to attract climate finance to fund climate commitment? Is a way to attract FDI into the sector? Or it is something to kind of put reward and incentives or punishment to achieve certain outcomes, right? There are two different ways. If you are only looking inward, then you are putting caps and you are saying trade, we want to reduce it. But if you are saying that we can produce carbon at a lower price than what the market is there, then we should be selling it outside, right? But if we know that future commitment, my carbon is going to be very, very costly to buy, then I would not sell. Because 5 years down the line, I have to buy the carbon to meet the country commitment. Summarizing, sir, I think solution-wise, I gave you some pointers, but the larger picture, I think Varun did a great job putting the slides, but two, three big points. If all the countries meet NDC goals, all the countries, we are looking at 2.4 degree or more warming. So even every country meeting NDC goal, we are not going to hit the Paris Agreement goal, then we need more commitment than the compliance commitment, and hence voluntary market is needed. Do more than what you are supposed to do, because 2.4 degree or more is the staring at us. The second thing is that when you talk about the, the larger picture voluntary carbon market, it should be seen as a market that is emerging and not as a market that is mature. So just as Deepak was saying that you cannot basically throw the baby with the water, right? We are talking about carbon market is the quintessential result-based financing for climate. Mechanism cannot be questioned. You are questioning the implementation by pointing the fingers. So let's focus on this mechanism. Why this is a quintessential, climate financing mechanism? Entire climate finance has been pegged around polluter pays. If you pollute, you should be paying. You should be penalized. That's the whole principle of climate finance. There was no discussion about that if you contribute positively, you should be rewarded. So we have been focusing more on the bad guys and controlling them, not the rewarding the good guys. This market gives that, okay, can we bring it together so the bad guys can pay and the good guys who are contributing positively can earn rewards, right? Right now I see that's the only way to do it. And if there are better way of connecting that, let's think of that market. So voluntary market is needed, and we need this mechanism to do additional action that is needed for climate commitment. So I'll stop here. Happy to.
Thank you, Santosh. And you have rightly mentioned that voluntary market is not a mature, it is evolving market. Definitely, once market is evolving, farmer does not know this fact. Yes. How a farmer can trust? Farmer is saying in the ground level that people are coming telling us different kind of the scheme and go away. So that how the market will mature unless we will be having the trust of the stakeholder, means farmer or the forest dependent communities. So that building trust is very important. And I give you one example of building trust. Just of course there is some political importance also. So UP Forest Minister and all paraphernalia, they came for meeting in our office, and we have given them the timeline. As mentioned earlier, we have given timeline of 24 months. Now we have shifted to 36 months. So they said, so election will be over that by that time. How will we motivating farmers? So that then they have requested. Again, this is an important point. They have requested that can we have prepayment to the farmer? Yes, we are technical expert. We cannot commit because we have. I have to discuss with the investor. Then I discussed with the investor and convinced him that it will be a beneficial for you also getting cooperation of the state. So now that money is with us. After assembly, the date will be decided. And we will be distributing 50 lakh to 1 crore to the farmer as a prepayment. So it is just kind of a trust building with the farmer. Just I'm not saying what is right or what is wrong. So the trust building is very key important. Somewhere we have to come in a middle path to have the trust also, and we cannot wait till the market is mature. So that
yeah, so I did not mean the market maturity to be say don't do anything, but the point I'm highlighting that immature markets would attract all kind of comments, all kind of concerns. And on the farmer point, I did mention that information asymmetry is the big problem. The farmers don't understand what kind of project it is. The government does not understand how the money will come, and you don't understand when the investor would demand something that okay, what kind of money should be given. So that's the point. I'm making.
Thank you, Santosh. Now I request Rohit. Rohit is from South Pole, and kindly apprise us regarding your RAD projects you are implementing here and as well as outside also. And recently the methodology have been VM0037 has become inactive, and we are waiting new methodology to be announced by the standard, so that how you are coping and managing your projects, and so you can apprise us regarding, because you have more experience than anybody else, any other organization in India. So we are also implementing 8 projects. But we are facing difficulties. So how you are overcoming those difficulties? Can you apprise, Rohit?
Thank you, sir. Thanks for inviting me for this session. Indeed, due to the change in the different standards and the methodologies, we are also facing a lot of issues from on ground in managing the existing project portfolio which we have in India and across the globe. And we are trying to cope up from the different investment models through which we can leverage some of the pre-financing in the project activities, as well as we can convince the farmers to be with us until the new methodology will come in picture from a RED Plus side specifically, and or some of the partners put it they started doing the different activities now, and they are with the different developers as well. Some of the contracts we lost as well because of the methodological change. Now, in the existing RED Plus project, we are trying to get some initial financing through which we can manage the existing project portfolio. And apart from that, we also started some of the additional activities on ground instead of not only the planting the trees on site, but we are trying to do the co-benefit activities in the regions so that farmers get benefited from those particular co-benefits. So that was the one initiative we started in the Red Plus project activity. Apart from that, we are now focusing on the afforestation and the agroforestry projects in the regions, and we are working in the same model like Mr. Deepak mentioned about the pre-financing activities as an investor in the project, because the nature-based solution projects, the farmers will only get benefited after 3-4 years. As you mentioned that you change the timeline. Considering the current scenario in the different standards, we can't ensure that within the 2 years farmer will get benefited from the carbon financing. So definitely the pre-financing is required. Without pre-financing, these projects are not feasible, and we're trying to secure some corporate financing as well as from the from South Pole's own financing to implement such project activities on ground and manage the financial needs of the farmers. Apart from all these, we are also trying to do a lot of stakeholder engagement these days, because what is happening with the farmers, they don't know what they are going to, in form of consent letter, what they are going to sign with us. So we are trying to engage with the farmers. We are trying to educate them that what we are going to do with this carbon financing, how they will get the benefit of it, and the carbon financing model which is going to be work in future. If they are getting a pre-financing for it, that money goes to the farmers or not. So that tracking also needs to be monitored by the project developers or from the project implementing partner. Without that, we can't. But otherwise, what was happening earlier, like the carbon revenue which was coming and it goes to the project implementers or the FPOs, and it's not going properly get distributed to the farmers. So to track that particular things, we also started doing a lot of engagements on ground with the farmers through some help from the local consultants or the local NGOs over there. And also we are trying to do a regular checks in it so that we can ensure that the money which are coming, pre-financing which is coming for the farmers is going to the end user directly. Also, apart from this compliance market space, we are exploring an option for the new Article 6 mechanism which will come in picture. Not especially in India, because India has not given the clear idea about that if the nature-based solution will be part of it or not. But in other part of the world, we are trying to see the Article 6 route as well for the nature-based solution activities, and we are trying to see that how these the JRED mechanism will work in the project activities, which is a new way of looking at the market in a RED Plus space right now. World Bank is already doing a pilot in Nepal, so we are taking an example of that particular project for a JRED and trying to see what we can do in other part of the world, especially in Vietnam these days. And within the nature-based solution space, what we have seen so far, like what especially is missing is the integrity issue, which was coming from all the media attacks, and we are trying to mitigate that risk through a quality checks or the due diligence of the project activity at a very advanced stage, so that we can mitigate all those particular risks in the project activities.
Thank you, Rohit. Again, the integrity issue has been emerged, and I think you are indicating toward the article published in the Guardian. And here I like to mention that if article is in the Guardian, if you are have the correct, right kind of the methodology in place and right kind of the verification and validation is place, why to worry about? There in a government sector, on daily basis there are complaints, there are newspaper, yellow journalism. So it does not mean that you stop working honestly with the integrity. So that here I am saying that why Vera or other standard is worrying about the article if they are maintaining the integrity. As far as those projects are concerned, for example, I give you the comparison. In India, forests are conserved and if harvested on sustainable basis. Sustainable basis means whatever increment is there, only that much for the assisting natural regeneration. Those trees are blocking the sunlight to the floor, so only those trees will be felled. So this is a scientific management. So likewise, but in case of South America and Latin America, they are giving licenses for the clear felling, and you are taking license and not felling the trees, and you are getting carbon finance in form of the money. So that maybe ethically it may be wrong. So that on the basis of that you are stopping, you are obstructing the other projects which are based on the degradation aspect, not on the deforestation aspect. So that I mean to say here only that Hindenburg has highlighted the issue of Adani. So it is just like a share market that come down drastically. Carbon market is not a share market. So that somewhere we have to have a stand and come up with a counter for that, that our methodology is correct, our verification and validation is correct, so that we are confident and we are maintaining integrity for the issuing the credit. So that is more important, that will not impact the ground level stakeholder. So with these words, now I request Mr. Amit Anand, the Chief Executive Officer, Carbon Check India Private Limited, and here only request to Amit that how we can reduce the timeline. Somewhere project developer have delays on their part, sometime validator have the delays on their part, so that why together efforts, how we can reduce this timeline. So that that will be definitely benefit all sitting in this hall, and particularly for the projects, and will help in building trust with the farmers. Amit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on the panel. Your question is very specific. Yeah, no, the answer is, as everybody on the panel has already mentioned or addressed in their, when they are sharing their experiences, is that it's a very complex market. So there is not a very straightforward solution to even maintaining the timelines for project validation, verification, and the issue that you were highlighted about Guardian article. At this point in time, I think the carbon markets to an extent is being held hostage by these kind of journalists and a few of those rating agencies as well, who independently rate these kind of projects, and then I'm not sure whether what extent of research they do when they come out with an article, but then the standards also are now have taken a back foot, they have become defensive, and the extent of rigorousness that should be applied in assessing the project and registering the project or issuing the credits, I think somewhere down the line, the answer to that, what is the limit of rigorousness that we are going to expect from the project developers, from the validators, verifiers in the system, nobody has a clear answer to that. It's just like that if I send an answer, they want me to say something else, something much, much better, and I'm not sure how much better I can be at answering those questions. There is an extent to it, and that's where I feel the timelines are thrown out of the window, because once we submit, then probably there are certain comments from other stakeholders, the methodology is under revision, they want to implement some much stringent methods of monitoring or evaluation, and those comments come back to us, and then sometimes it so happens that some of these comments that come back to us for addressing in these projects, they need to be applied retroactively in the project. Now that's something that's completely not possible, because when the project was designed, it was designed with certain assumptions, the assumptions that were available at that point in time in the market. There was a methodology, there was a standard, and the project developer, after doing a proper due diligence and then going to the investors doing their own due diligence because they want to invest money, they have somehow come to a conclusion that this methodology and this standard is the best fit for our requirement at this point in time. And then they have initiated the process, they have done the technical development of the document, appointed a VVB, the validation process has been done. And at the very end, when we are submitting our documents, then suddenly there is a requirement that, okay, now we are going to revise this methodology, and this has come to us through our stakeholder consultation or expert committee consultation. We want your project to also address this. Now, how can I go and address this 5 years down the line? And that becomes a problem, and then that's a problem which I completely understand. The timelines, we also want to control the timelines, because we also want to complete one project and move on to another project.
Yes.
Being stuck with the same project for a project developer as well as for us for a period of 36 months does not make any business sense at all. And the point is that what Lokesh was also saying, integrity is the key, but then how much quality, how much integrity you want at what cost? Is the market willing to pay a premium if I am becoming more, improving the integrity and quality of my credits? So these are the questions that everybody, all the stakeholders involved in this market have to answer. Because we can have improvement in quality, we can go digital, we can have very expensive means of monitoring and evaluation and verification of data. But that would add to the basic value of carbon credit. But does market want to pay that premium? And all these quests for higher integrity, higher quality is what is impacting those timelines as well. Because, and that's what my understanding is, that all these quests for higher integrity, higher quality, and then robustness are adding to those timelines, and we'll try our best in your case to meet those timelines.
Why do we specific in each case?
Literally all cases. Just because farmers ask us.
No, everybody, even farmers, even
Farmers ask us.
all these people sitting on the panel, except Lokesh, they don't ask for the timelines, but all these people sitting on this side of the panel, they always ask for the timelines.
Thank you, Amit. But one solution I have in my mind is, I will just elaborate that. If developer, investor, and VVB have the frequent meetings and discussions on the comments and replies, so that, because all three stakeholders wants that maintain integrity as well as wants to have the issuance of the quality credits at the earliest. So it is better to discuss more frequently. I think that is the only solution, because you have raised comment on the basis of the what is the gap as per the guideline. So definitely there is sometime interpretation issues, there is some other issues. So can be resolved. I think that is a better way of dealing it.
Just to add on to that, sir, we have regular consultation with all the standards, with VERA, with GO standard. We have webinars, and the purpose of that webinar is we understand their requirements, their evolving requirements and changing requirements, and then adapt this into our validation and verification. I think one part of its suggestion is that probably there should be a much more frequent interaction between project developers and the standards as well, because project developers, investors, and VVBs having an interaction together, that would dilute that would directly question, bring in conflict of interest situation, and will dilute the impartiality of the entire system. So we have our own separate consultations, but I think the need of the hour is, because as the voluntary market is evolving and rapidly changing, the need of the hour is that the project developers and investors do also have a forum to frequently communicate and have such webinars and knowledge sharing experiences with the standards as well.
Definitely this particular point will keep in the proceedings and the outcome of this. So lastly,
Sir, I want to add a point over here.
Please.
So to mitigate the timeline issues, the PD forum, that's a PD forum developed for all the project developers, and already putting a paper or the letter to the gold standard and the VERA for meeting out the timelines, and from the gold standard and VERA, the PD forum already received a response that they are working on to update their timeline issues, and they are working on a more robust scenario or the framework in which they will be transparent in terms of the timelines, especially for the project developers.
Okay, so now we are talking about the standards, VERA gold standard, but now Sachin is maintaining the carbon registry of India, and how the carbon registry of India can attract the investors to register more and more projects, so that it will be easier for the VVVs, developers, and investors to get it issued, and maintain the timeline and also the integrity both. So Sachin.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, and good evening to all of you. A little introduction to NCCF. Is a civil society organization with the mandate to develop the sustainability standards. Am I audible? Yeah.
So, pass me.
So we are into developing the standards which are mainly for sustainability. As of now, we have almost developed 10 standards, mainly in the area of natural resources, but there are the other standards also like ecotourism and safe boards. So carbon standard is also one of the outcome of our 10 standards, which is a rigorous work for what we have started in 2017, and then like it is almost 6-7 years that it took to develop this carbon standard. This carbon standard is the main basis for this platform, which we call is Carbon Registry India. We were the first movers and the first one in India to start this initiative. While we see that the other countries, the other voluntary registries, they are doing and they're catering the certain market demands. So we thought because of the stakeholders that we have, and then eminent experts work with NCCF, could really foresight that yes, there would be a market mechanism would be required in India, and there would be a time where there would be a good carbon marketplace. And especially after the Paris Accord, when we have got the clarity, that yes, the things are happening, and then countries has got their obligation in the form of NDCs. So how these NDCs, would be met and international commitment would be fulfilled. That says that yes, there would be definitely a carbon marketplace would be required in the country. The entire ecosystem needs to be developed. So we thought yes, to support the entire ecosystem, we should also be a part of it. And then this is how the thought came to develop the carbon registry in the country. So though there are a lot of areas where I can intervene and then say that yes, there are the challenges that you've been mentioning here, starting from the project developer perspective to the verifier or a validator, or somebody who is financing the entire project, or and especially the integrity issue that you said. So sir, what I would say, until unless you till the time you have a dependency over the others, especially the foreign entities, the integrity issue will always be there in one of the other type of form. And this we have been encountering a lot in our other works also. So the thought, for developing the carbon registry, the main point one is a national indigenous platform to support the entire carbon marketplace and to be a part of the ecosystem. Secondly, the access to the smallholders, so that they are not left behind in the entire journey of net zero or whatever you say. Generally, if you see the entire carbon market, starting from project proponent till the credits are issued, there is a huge fee involved everywhere, definitely with the timelines also. And the small holders who can really create an impact by having a small project, maybe at an individual level or maybe a small self-help group level, they're always left behind, because there is no registry, there is no market mechanism currently in the entire chain, who would treat these kind of small and micro project. And what we're losing is the huge amount of the measurable carbon credits, which could be really useful for meeting our NDCs, or maybe the companies or the businesses or the individual who wants to join the net zero journey, and then they want to be the net zero. But mind my words that, you know, the actual calculated carbon would only be coming from small and micro type projects. So our registry is meant for leveraging this kind of a project, not only where you're talking about big numbers, you know. So this is pretty much very relevant to the country's context. So as I mentioned that methodologies I've been hearing, you know, that the fixed methodology, there was the time when under CDM, there was a lot of methodology developer were there, different sectors, different type of methodologies. Generally in voluntary market, what happened is like all of them all these registrants have adopted those CDM methodologies, and then you know, there was certain development on the methodologies part, but not exactly the way that it should be. And why it has not really happened? Because there was no localization of the market. Now when we see the localization of the market, we see that yes, there are a lot of innovative methodologies, and small and medium type of projects needs to be done. Until unless now you want to develop a methodology, I'm sorry, I'm not offending anyone, but as far as our experience is concerned, is that you want to develop a methodology, so there is a huge fees associated with it, with the timelines, you know. So a project, somebody who has a small project, or maybe which is not economically viable according to the current fee structure, so how he is going to be come into the entire game, or you know, be a part of the entire ecosystem. So innovative methodologies will come only while the inclusion of the stakeholders of these countries, you know, and who knows the local condition of the country, you know, then only those kind of innovative methodologies would be coming. And this is how, once you have a lot of methodologies, so anybody can do a small or a medium or a large project on those methodologies. This is how the whole ecosystem in the marketplace would be created. So while we, again, another good point is that, you know, while the fee structure on a different line, so we really wanted to control the entire money or financial implication associated with a project while a credit has to be issued. So that was a really controllable. So the kind of fee structures that we have created here, or we have adopted here, is to support the entire marketplace, to support again the smallholders, to support the entire people or the stakeholders here. Of course, what I really been hearing from Sharma ji also, I've got a good chance to spend a lot of time in COP with him, and then I've been hearing the challenges that he's currently facing. So until unless if you have something of your own, you know, the national, the indigenous, where you have a say. So many of you are already associated with Carbon Registry India. You are on the panel also. Something or the other, you know, many of the people sitting in this hall are associated with that. So until unless you have a voice, you have a say in the entire system, so, and your dependency is there, then, you know, this kind of a problem would never be solved. So this kind of a flexibility, the CRI gives you this kind of a flexibility. Yes, you know, the challenges which we've been hearing, I will not repeat the challenges, you know, but you will have a say here. I can assure you that the quickest turnaround time, the challenges that you're facing would be overcome, because, you know, there is not a, you know, a great this kind of system, and then we are not looking the entire world market. We are not looking for the project coming from the Africa, Chile, this thing. We are entirely focusing on our country and the local landscapes, the local context, which has got the relevance with the country. So the people would have a chance to have their own say in the entire system with the registry, and also, you know, the kind of challenges that you're facing. So we can as you said, that the project developers, validators, and the owners, you have to keep meeting, or the finances. But yes, CRI is a platform where you can always have a discussion. You can see, okay, what India wants, what kind of methodology in agriculture sector that we want, what maybe the renewable projects are not really very attractive anymore in terms of if you see the international market. But if you see the relevance in India for the renewable, is huge. We have a solar mission, and then one of the NDC is totally entirely on the renewables. So we can't have just let it go like that, because the international buyer is not buying something there, but maybe our corporates, our people who are under the net zero journey, and they want to retire, they want the cheaper credits. Why can't the renewable energy things is, it doesn't need to be faded away. It needs to be really, should be a center of attraction. But what we all needs to know here is that local context, the relevancy with the country's conditions are the most important thing. And we should really be thinking about the international market, and then the value of our credit, what we're generating, should be commanding a good price in the international market. But we should really be looking at, the things that we require in the country, the amount of carbon credits we need to be requiring for, becoming a net zero country. So this is
thank you, Sachin. And
intervention.
one question I ask you, that you do not have much methodologies on your platforms, but no, I have not seen, as you mentioned, as you say. So if the methodologies, of course, CDM is not in practice nowadays, but under suspension, but the methodologies are there on the website. If some projects can be prepared under those methodologies, standard methodology of the compliance market, so will your registry will accept that?
Sir, there are three ways that we are handling the methodologies. The first, the methodologies of all the different sectors which were there in CDM system with the UNFCCC system. So all those methodologies are adopted. The only thing is they should be relevant in the context. Secondly, the methodologies registered with different foreign registries, they are also be taken into the consideration while you're talking about CRI. Third thing is the main emphasis that we really want to do with CRI in the entire country, where we are doing a tie with the IITs, IIMs, and different research institutes to get the people, come forward. They have to come forward, develop their methodologies, and then, the fees associated with the methodologies, the turnaround time, and the simplicity. It is not that you have to have this verification body, then another verification body, within 6 months' time for this. No. You come with the methodology, we'll assure you that within the 3 months of time, if the things are all in line, in 3 months, your methodology would be registered. And it is all up to you whether you want to keep your methodology in public so that the other can also use, like Elon Musk, given open the patented technology for EV for others to come, and then how the moment is going. So, or you want to develop the methodology and then you want to keep something for yourself and then keep earning a certain royalty. So all that is there. The good part to know about the methodology is like 3 months of time, your methodology is registered, and this methodology might not be seen anywhere in any registry in the world, but must be relevant to your local conditions here in the country.
Thank you very much, Sachin, because sure.
Registry, I think really love the initiative, and then this is a solution. I think the biggest problem with registries are not the technical problems or the scientific problem, is the acceptance and the price that they would get. And I think we need to put a lot of effort to get the CRI part of SBTI net zero commitment, that okay, if you meet carbon offset from the CRI registry, that gets validated into SBTI. So we need to push the boundary at SBTI level, because they are putting the standards for the net zero. Yeah. And if we get that cracking, then a number of things could be easily done, because that's the thing. Sir, the second point you talked about the pricing and Guardian article, just for everyone, because we have burned the hand in previous market when 2007 at the CDM market was there and crashed. Carbon markets, carbon credits, especially voluntary carbon credits, behave like a facet good. Okay, they do not mimic essential commodities. So the moment any criticism happens, the prices fall down, right? Because the idea is that the pricing is based on that. 1 ton carbon credit from renewable is different than 1 ton carbon credit from NbS. When the criticism comes, why $30? Why not $2? So it is a very, very big problem the way they are priced, and the pricing itself is susceptible to any kind of criticism. The moment criticism will happen, the prices will crash. Because I have seen the cooker stove being priced at $30 because gender, environmental, health benefit, it crashed down to $3. So fashion goods go like that. Your Gucci bag, everything like $300. Somebody just criticized Gucci, or Gucci said something about Indians, prices will crash immediately in India. So I'm just giving you why that the pricing we need to figure it out for the voluntary carbon market. It does not mimic the compliance market pricing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now you have just 10-minute extension with permission of you all. So now it is a time for the question answer. Please, Salish.
Sir, on one hand, we see that there is a lot of potential in carbon markets. Recently, the European Union has imposed the carbon border tax for importing the goods from other countries, right? So that is another area which is opening up. On the other hand, as Sharma sir has already flagged that we have to win the trust of the people, especially the grassroots people to whom we are likely to transfer the benefits that would accrue out of carbon finance project. In such a situation, we say that the carbon markets are emerging. All the procedures, processes, standardizations are yet to be finalized or standardized or zeroed down on. Now, how to bail the cat now? Who will take the responsibility? That is what is my question. No, there are all on the dais, all these stakeholders from the carbon market are sitting, right? Now, we all know that there is a lot of potential. We have to win the trust of the people. Now we have to standardize all these processes, right? And we have to reduce these conflicts and all this. Who will build the cat? Now, what I propose is that we should form a confederation of all these parties. They should sit together and codify the procedures, standardize the procedures, at least for our country. So that can be done informally.
Yeah.
Then it can be approved. And you can fix the timeline for the validators, for the auditors. You can fix the criteria based on which the auditing or the verification is to be done. That is first thing. Secondly, there are a lot of assumptions under which these projects are prepared. Now, to do away with these assumptions, we should standardize the quantification and the assessment methodology. Now, there are a lot of AI tools, modern technology can be deployed. For example, if we claim that X amount of carbon dioxide is sequestered, when the auditors visit that site, he should also use the same methodology, same tool to assess that, isn't it? If it is standardized, then there will be no difference of opinion. That is what I feel. That is the second point I just wanted to flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your opinion to standardize the process. I would like to repeat the same answer which Mr. Amit Anand repeated, that what will be the cost of these things? Like we agree to do this, we can do this, but are the buyer willing to pay that high cost? There are a lot of AI-based systems, automated monitoring system. We can adopt that for the any type of project activities. That will increase the cost of project development. That will increase the cost of monetization as well. But the buyers are not willing to pay such a high fee. That's the main issue which we are also facing as a project developer these days in the market.
Over a period of time, that can be subsidized. It can gain the trust of the people. The gestation period of the project will be lesser.
Sir, I think the big challenge is that we are producers, buyers are sitting on that geography. And they have, so there is a big, I think there's a balance between having a simplified methodology and ease of operation and having the integrity and the validity that stands the scrutiny in this buyer. So if we can simplify everything, then the integrity goes down. Then they will say, okay, we'll not pay you that price. And till the time we have Indian corporates having the commitment that we are going to buy from here and we will buy from this geography, we will continue to be driven by the standards set by the buyers who are operating out of global north and not global south. So, and that's why I was saying that if SBTI and others start saying that, okay, I approve the credit from a CRI or a local electricity, that will happen. Right now we are, while we all say that there's a demand supply challenge and we don't have a supply of carbon credits, high integrity carbon credits, the reality is that we are not driven by the seller's market, it's the buyer's market. They decide what to be done. So that's the challenge. I think the point is very obvious, and I think Deepak and Sharma sir and everyone, there are multiple platforms that have emerged right now. The carbon market is one, there are different, so they are coming there. What we lack is that very dedicated focus on addressing the guiding principle that is guiding that, right? So somebody, MRV, okay, that's a different question. 6.2 May, why we don't have agriculture, why there is a complete silence on how the carbon credit from the agroforestry project or the government-owned forestry project will be treated in NDC. These are the questions that will emerge clarity, but the point I'm saying that all of these innovations from our side would not result into any benefit if the buyers are not basically paying for it.
Any other question?
And one more thing, I'd just like to add on standardization.
No more questions, so we can close.
No, one more thing that I would like to add on standardization, which you said, is that already in carbon market there are a lot many standardized approaches that are available. But then use of those approaches cannot be made mandatory, because then we have a viewpoint from project developers that my project is unique. I cannot use the same set of standardized baselines or parameters, because then that's like they are impacting my carbon credit revenues or my ER generation from the project, because when you standardize a emission factor or baseline, it tends to be on a lower side because it takes into account a lot of uncertainty, because then it goes from a very region specific or project specific value to a very larger national level value. So when you have that range of uncertainty and that is accounted for, then of course the ERs would be less. So we have standardized baseline, but then would project developers, would you want to make it mandatory for project developers to use those standardized baseline? That is also a key question that then the project developers would have to also address, because standardization is not a problem. There are standardized tools available, but then the choice cannot be made mandatory for all the project developers.
Deepak, I think to your question, Shailesh ji, platform is the need. I agree with that. While there might be certain platforms and associations, and those alluded to, and in fact that's what I said in my comments, initial comments, that maybe this can be the platform, or there can be a pseudo platform created. There are global platforms that can be leveraged. But another need is for platform to have right representation of people, and people who are in the long-term play of carbon ecosystem, which includes investors, credible consultants, credible buyers also, to Santosh's point. And I think at least our assessment is buyers are willing to pay some premium. Now whether that premium is sufficient or not to do what we want to do, I mean again there is a whole continuum in everything. There is organic wheat available at 300 rupees a kg, and wheat is available at 40-50 rupees a kg. People buy, but volume will not come at 300 rupees. Volume will come maybe somewhere in between 40 and 300 if quality can be improved. So broadly what I'm saying is, yes, there is a need to discuss all these issues. There is a need for, I think first and foremost need is as a country and also government to acknowledge this a little bit more formally, that there is this ecosystem that can be created with, and I think Santosh raised this point in his comment, what is carbon finance? Now, I think let's forget the term carbon finance, the way it was being used historically. Historically it meant carbon finance coming from global north to global south. That's no more true. It can be project being financed with a upside possible through carbon. So it's not carbon finance in that strict sense of money coming from people who are going to buy right upfront. It can be money coming from an investor like Renew with a motive of getting money back and maybe some return as the carbon credits get generated. So in strict terms, it's not carbon finance to start with, but in a broader term, it is carbon financing because the source of revenue ultimately is going to be carbon. So I think some of these things need to be clarified within the group of people who even claim they know, but more increasingly more with the regulators and government and to Dr. Sharma's point, those people who trust or who farmers and societies and communities trust on the ground. That's the way to scale. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandeep. Now, we like to conclude that integrity and the quality of the credits is key. And also the timeline is also very important for very important to build the trust with the real ground level, grassroots level stakeholder, farmers and the forest dependent communities, because we all are working for them. Platforms are for them to get issued the carbon credit in favor of them, and we are also highlighting the contribution towards sustainable development goal. Until unless we take care of the grassroots level stakeholder, we cannot do justice with the mitigation of climate change as well as achieving the sustainable development goal. As far as it is a market driven reality, and price is not driven by the buyer. So that is a fact. But how to determine the price and how to take this particular subject forward in India? So we are keep on saying and we keep on writing this particular aspect that there is a need to have some kind of the policy and regulatory regime within the country. Why we pay income tax? Because there is a regulation for that. So that if Indian corporates are mandatory for to purchase offset their emissions from some part of it from the NbS sector, definitely farmers will be benefited. Doubling the income aspect of the policy of the government will also be fulfilled. And as far as alternate livelihood to the forest dependent communities, that also be fulfilled with the activity under the REDD plus. So likewise, these are the facts, and TERI will come out with the proceedings. We will circulate the proceedings, and with these words I am thanks to all the panelists. They have shared their valuable, they have given their valuable input, and we have also benefited with that, and all audience were benefited with that, and we will circulate the proceedings to those who are panelists, not only the panelists but to the audience, and getting their views if some gaps are there. So that will be final position paper or the in form of the proceedings, some document, and on the basis of that, that is also for very sure we will write to the Government of India. That is a view of the people, there is a view of the different stakeholders. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for moderating such an insightful discussion. On behalf of TERI, I would like to thank all the members of the panel for their valuable inputs and for engaging in such a fruitful and constructive discussion on the NbS carbon development space in India. I would now request Dr. Sharma to kindly felicitate our speakers with a small token of appreciation from TERI.
Yogesh, Arif, you also come? Deepak, thank you. Varun? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
It gives me immense pleasure to announce that yesterday TERI launched a very special publication titled as TERI Solutions for Sustainable Development. This is a compilation of 60 knowledge products inspired by TERI's journey of the past 5 decades. TERI Solutions for Sustainable Development is an attempt to compile relevant knowledge which can be customized by a range of stakeholders, from an individual in society to corporates and governments to practice sustainable lifestyle. As we formally conclude this session, I would also like to thank all of you present here today for taking the time to be with us. I hope you have a great evening ahead. I would now request all of you to kindly proceed towards the Stein Auditorium for the 6 p.m. session. Thank you.